Hello and welcome to this edition of the MLB podcast. So, what we're going to do is we're going to jump division by division. We're going to go National League first, and the format will be East to West. The same format will be used in the American League. So, let's start out with the National League East. So, the team that I think is getting the most, could be talked about the most, is definitely the Braves. But the team I'm going to mention is the New York Mets. So when I came on air about, back in April, first 2 weeks of the season, the Mets were the best team in baseball. Now, guess what happened? Since then, they're 11-1. Since then, I think they've been 16-31. So they've played .333 baseball. So since that stretch, they've won 1 out of every 3 games on average. So that means they win 1 game per series on average. I think the whole turning point was you go back to May 1st, right before my previous episode on May 5th, and they got swept by the Mets, or got swept by the Braves in New York, and that was it really. The Braves took first place, and the Mets haven't been in first place since. Right now they're in 4th place. They're 5 games below 500. Now they all got there, so they're playing the Braves last week. Meltdown in Game 1, meltdown in Game 2. They had back-to-back bullpen meltdowns, which the first 2 weeks of the season, their bullpen was a great strength. It's how they won a lot of games. And here we are now, going into this weekend, and I'll get to that in a minute. But I think they win 2 against the Braves. But then this weekend against the Cubs, they have a 4-game series against the Cubs. They get swept. They got swept. And what's unfortunate about this, and a great example of this was Saturday night, Jacob deGrom, who is the best pitcher of the National League this year, not named Max Scherzer. And deGrom is going to be a Cy Young Award finalist, yet deGrom is pitching great for them. His ERA is below 2. Well below 2. And the problem is they're not scoring any runs for him. What good is it if you lose 2-1? 1-0. It doesn't do any good. So the Mets are not scoring runs. And that's a problem. Their offense isn't very good. Their pitching staff has gone way down. So anyways, they get swept by the Cubs. They lose that 14-inning game on Saturday. 4-game sweep. The Cubs just came into New York and swept them. And then this week, they play against the Baltimore Orioles, who are the worst team in baseball this year. Their pitching the last 2 years, starting pitching in particular, has been the worst has been ranked 30th in Major League Baseball. So, you know how many runs they score that entire series? They score 3 runs in 2 games. I think they lost 2-1 and 1-0. So you lose 2 games in a row to the Orioles, and you score 3 runs against the Orioles. And granted, they have 2 good starters. Okay, Dylan Bundy, Kevin Gausman, yeah, they can give you 2 good games in a week. So what? But the point is, they really had a shot to turn around. And you know what? This weekend, guess who they're playing? The New York Yankees, who right up there for the Red Sox, best 2 teams in Major League Baseball. No question. And they're playing the Yankees in New York. So, yes, they might have the fan support. The crowd will be behind them. But the problem is there'll be a lot of Yankees fans there for sure. And the Yankees will be heavy favorites this weekend. In fact, I'm going to say this right now. The Mets are done. The Mets are done. The Yankees are going to sweep the Mets, and the Mets are going to lose 9 games in a row. Look, they're not going to win the National League East. In fact, if you look at teams in the National League East of potential futures, Braves and Phillies clearly have a good future, and this is just the beginning of them of getting better. You know, the Braves are the team that I think has the best future. Nationals, I think they have a good future. You know, they just promoted Juan Soto, who we'll talk about soon, upcoming, and they have pieces to build around. The Nationals very well run by Mike Rizzo. And you look at the Marlins, they're just beginning a massive rebuild. But the Mets, Granted, they went to the World Series, and then they lost. They played in one playoff game since then. And last year was a disaster. Yet, last year, granted, they've had injuries the last 2 years to their rotation. No one of the 5 members of this rotation, Matt Harvey, is now excluded, as I talked about that at length in my last episode. No one in that rotation has had a full healthy season in the last 2 years. In 2016, it was Syndergaard. Last year, it was DeGrom who carried the load. This year, they've been lucky for the most part. Syndergaard had a minor finger injury. Will pitch this Sunday as a Sunday night game of the week. And on the other side, Jacob DeGrom had a minor elbow issue so far. But Matz has not been very good. Neither has Wheeler. And then you add another starter, Jason Vargas, who they thought could be a good innings eater for them, has been terrible this year too. Look, the Mets aren't pitching bullpen meltdowns recently. They're done. They're playing into the Yankees. Now, granted, I think it's still a little early to write them off, but the way they've been playing, they're just not that good of a team. Their lineups okay, let's play this name game. I'm going to name players in their lineup, all right? Adrian Gonzalez, Asdrubal Cabrera. Jose Reyes is a bench player, plays some. Jay Bruce. Jose Batista. Alright? That's a pretty good lineup, right? Well, that was the 2000... I think all those players, all but one of them, I think, were in the 2011 All-Star game, right? So if you had that team 5, 6, 7 years ago, that would be a great team. But that's the problem. They've signed a lot of guys well past their prime. Todd Frazier was that example as well. They're paying veteran players, and granted, Cespedes, who has been great for them at times, huge reason why they went to the World Series, and certainly a huge reason why they made it to the playoffs, carried that offense down that stretch that year. Cespedes has been hurt a lot the last 2 years. Oh yeah, another guy in their team, David Wright. Best third baseman in baseball, say, 12 years ago, right? 8 to 12 years ago, right? Unfortunately, it's too bad about him, all those injuries, back, whatever. I think a lot of disc issues, shoulders, is basically has not played since 2016. And in 2016, had a season-ending injury, was hurt a lot of 2015. So, David Wright, huge amount of injury problems. That's too bad. So, they had a lot of useful talent to their team, and Syndergaard and DeGrom are carrying that rotation. They're their future. Syndergaard really is their future. DeGrom is, 29? So, either is in his prime right now. And look, what we saw from the Mets in 2015, we thought that would continue. We thought they'd be a playoff team. And granted, that has not happened. They've played, and they were very lucky to play in that playoff game, by the way. And they're not going to make it to the playoffs this year. And yes, Mickey Callaway's a new manager. Yeah, early in the year you can talk about how great Mickey Callaway was. And I don't know, this team, they might have to enter a rebuilding phase. I really don't know. I just do not trust the New York Mets right now. Okay, so we talked a lot about the Mets right now. Just the rest of the NL East. How do you feel about the Braves? I feel great about the Braves. I think it'll be very good. And the scary part is they've not figured out the rotation in the future yet. They still have a lot, and it's a great problem to have. They have a log jam of pitchers. So if someone gets hurt, they can put them in, plug them in. They do have a lot of options out there. They have a really good bullpen. This team's young. And unfortunately, bad news to report. It happened about Memorial Day weekend. Ronald Acuna has been hurt for the last almost 2 weeks. Think we'll be back sometime in June. They got fairly lucky, watching the replay and seeing what happened. Could have been a very severe knee injury. Turns out it's fairly minor. Just want to be cautious and see what happens. So yes, this Braves team is young. They're exciting to watch. They do the right things. They put the ball in play. They hit for average. They don't strike out. Guys like Freddie Freeman and Nick Markakis, veterans like that. That's how the team plays, through them. And Phillies have made tremendous progress. Last year we thought they took a step back. This year they've made great progress. Braves and Phillies. And who I think is going to win the division is the Nationals. And here's why. Scherzer's going to win the Cy Young. Strasburg's been very good this year. Gio Gonzalez, I think, is underrated. I think he was underrated last year. Quietly, ERA barely above 2. Gio's been great the last 2 years. After 2016 was pretty rough for him. I think it was the worst year of his career. And this is a good Nationals team. This Nationals team's really good. And one player I want to mention, Juan Soto. So he's age 19. And I see a lot of his at-bats. And I've seen, and I was there. I saw him hit a home run in person last weekend at age 19. Pretty remarkable. Now, granted, 19-year-olds in the big leagues. It's pretty rare. It happens, I don't know, maybe once every 2 to 3 years. Some years we have multiple in the league at once. Other years it doesn't happen. We might go 3 or 4 years without it. So it's something that happens just a few times a decade. It's a special occasion. It's not like the NBA where there's 10 players in the league that are 19 every year. This is a special occasion. This is great to see. And Juan Soto looks like the most advanced hitter on the Nationals right now, and has been their best hitter the last 2 weeks, really. Walks, doesn't chase. I mean, just great 2-strike approach. And then Bryce Harper, we're still waiting for Bryce Harper to get going. It seems like great. I feel like is just, I don't know. Is it possible pressure is getting to him? I don't know. It's hard to say. We think Bryce Harper will get it going. But if I had to pick the team to win the National League East, if I had to pick that team right now, I'd pick the Nationals. I think the Braves will be a wild card team. Phillies, it's possible this could be a 3-team, send 3 teams to the playoffs. Braves, Phillies, wild card game. Could very well happen. Okay, NL Central. The Cubs, I think the Cubs. So the first place team is the Brewers. So what their strength is bullpen. Great bullpen. Their bullpen strikes a lot of guys out. They don't allow a lot of runs. Their rotation's okay. Now, when you go into the playoffs, this team could be similar to the Royals in some ways or another. Going into the playoffs. Since their rotation, their starters, they might ask them to go 5-6 innings. The bullpen will take care of you. And look, the bullpen gets heavy usage, and if the Brewers season in today, they're in the playoffs. In fact, in recent days, they've been the best team in the National League record-wise. So when you plug the Brewers into the playoffs, again, starters go 5 innings. Okay, fairly good outing. You're in the lead. Bullpen comes in. Game over. The Brewers are the type of team where you look at them on paper, especially rotation-wise, and you don't think, they're World Series favorites. They're going to win the World Series. They're not World Series favorites. Since you look at the American League, how strong that league is. You have 3 great teams out there. The Brewers are the type of team that can get into the playoffs, go on that run. So it's hard to say for sure if the Brewers, but I like that team. They're definitely a team to keep an eye out on. The Cubs, well, here's the problem with the Cubs is their starting rotation, I don't know if it's good enough. I mean, Yu Darvish has been hurt at times and is just, when on the field, has been very ineffective. And they spent all that money on Darvish. Darvish is, right now, is a terrible contract. And still has 5+ years to get it straightened out, but not what the Cubs hope for. They might have rather had Arrieta than Darvish right now. Definitely. And to the Cubs, look, their offense is very good. One of the better offenses in the National League. I trust that offense. Lester's been very good this year. Lester's had a nice bounce back here. Hopefully they can get Darvish going once again, and then Quintana had a very good start last night, but is inconsistent. So when you look at the rotation, inconsistent, not great. I do like their bullpen. I think they do have a very good bullpen. And they're definitely a wild card team right now and can win the division. And we'll see what they do. I mean, last year, going up against the Nationals had better pitching against them. They won that series. The Cubs can win in October. We know that. We've seen that. And the Cubs are going to make it to the playoffs this year. They're going to be a wild card team at the very least. They'll likely win the division. I like the Brewers a lot. They're better than they are last year. They're definitely a sneaky team to keep an eye on. If they win that wild card game, they could be that team that makes a run towards the pennant in the National League right now. So Cubs, Brewers, they're the two best teams. Pirates, they've fallen off, obviously. The Cardinals, well, Alex Reyes, this is unfortunate news. Last week, returned after missing 15 months with Tommy John surgery. Lasted just 4 innings, and then it turned out, I think, tore some sort of core muscles, kind of side area, back areas, out for the year. That injury sounds very painful. And look, the Cardinals, I don't know. I think they definitely have some weaknesses, But we'll see if the Cardinals can get it going. And so yeah, there you go. I think in the National League Central, I think the Cubs are going to win the division. I think they're still the favorites right now. They're starting to turn it up. Recently, they're starting to play better. And for an example, they were an interesting story this year. Right around May 1st, go back 4 or 5 weeks ago, the Diamondbacks were the best team in the National League. There was no question about that. They were the best team in the National League early on. Yet, they've had injuries this year throughout their lineup. Steven Souza, who last year in Tampa hit 30 plus home runs, Very good defensive player, an athletic kind of corner outfielder type guy, where they're hoping to at least semi-replace JD Martinez. Has basically been hurt all year. Has played 10 games, I want to say, if that. And then Jake Lamb has basically been hurt all year. Came back just recently. Is just come back. So you missed 2 key players right there. And once again, AJ Pollock, who was looking like an MVP candidate, had a great April. Was doing great. Certainly well on his way to making the All-Star game. Got hurt. Thumb injury. He's been out, 3-4 weeks now, and will probably miss about another 3 or so weeks. So again, you lose Pollock for about 6-7 weeks right there. So you've had 3 key offensive players out. And Goldschmidt, on the other hand, has been healthy this year. And the thing with Paul Goldschmidt is the last 5 years or so is always MVP finals. When you go on the MLB Network, they announce, okay, we're going to announce the National League MVP. Finalists are Paul Goldschmidt has been there a lot of times, thinking might have a possibility to win the MVP. And yet, this year has just, I don't know. It seems like you go through box scores and you see, 0 for 4 strikeouts, 0 for 3 strikeouts. And I hear people saying that, I don't know, just, is it decline? I mean, I don't know, but just, this is a very long slump for Goldschmidt. And granted, yesterday had a 4-hit game, so that's encouraging. I think he's starting to do a little better, but has basically played very poorly for 2 months. So the D-backs for most of the year, when you consider those 4 guys I just mentioned, they basically missed their 4 best hitters, including Goldschmidt, who has not showed up. So offense has been a problem, and one of their key starters, Robbie Ray, who was great last year, had over 200 strikeouts. last year, has been out for almost 6 weeks now. We don't know when he's coming back. They've faced injuries. And when you look at their streak, when they lost 13 out of 14, it seemed like they'd score 1, 2, 4, 1 or 2, 3 runs every time. They just couldn't score runs. They lost a lot of bad games. And they've picked it up recently. They've done a little better. But that division is wide open. And now let's go over to the Dodgers. So here's the thing with the Dodgers this year. They've missed 4 of their starters are on the disabled list. Hyun-Jin Ryu was their best starter for the first month or so of the season. Got a torn groin muscle, which sounds very painful. Is out for another 5-6 weeks. Has been out for about 5 weeks now. Major injury right there. Then you go over to Rich Hill, who I happened to watch that start. Was on May 19th. And lasted 2 pitches. Not 2 batters, not 2 innings. Literally 2 pitches. And the reason why, it was a blister. It was a blister injury, which Hill's had a lot of those over the years. I think it's just a chronic problem for him. The blisters, which doesn't sound that bad, but it's very hard to pitch with a blister apparently. And Hill's been out. Maeda had a great stretch. And then last week, left the game, hip injury. Maeda wanted to stay in the game. I think it's fairly minor. I think should be back fairly shortly. And Kershaw. Here's the deal with Kershaw. It was on May 6th, right after I did my last episode. Just walking around, got an alert on my phone, said, oh, Kershaw did the DL. Came back last Thursday, the 31st of May. Pitched fairly well that day. Or actually, did not pitch fairly well. Had low velocity on that fastball, which we knew was down this year. And then came out with a back injury. Thought, yep, that's the thing. Next day, put on the DL. We don't know when Kershaw is coming back. And the thing with the back for Kershaw is, got in 2016. That year was well on his way to winning the Cy Young. Was the Cy Young favorite in the National League. Happened again in 2017. Again, well on his way to winning a Cy Young. So Kershaw has had 2-3 years in a row for back injury. And this is a reoccurring or even a chronic injury. And when you talk about the back, Kershaw is going to be out for I don't know how long. And this has kept happening. I don't know if it'll be the same. I mean, velocity-wise, it's not going to throw as hard as he did when he was younger, when it was 94, 95, as high as 97 at times. Will not be in the mid-90s. Might have to figure out how to make it work in the low 90s or right around 90. Well, does not have the same devastating stuff that helped him win 3 Cy Young awards. What could work is just, can he adjust to possibly decline? And here's something that we thought would be a major story. So everyone knew when we signed that extension in January of 2014 that Kershaw would very likely opt out of that deal. Well, now, I think still has 2 years left after this year. Maybe now you don't want to do it. Maybe you either want to try to come back the next 2 years and try to figure out what to do and try to see if you can get another huge contract, or I don't know, if Kershaw opts out, he's not going to get the type of money that people long thought he would. I just don't think that's going to happen. It's hard to say now. Can Kershaw, and granted, an entire rotation, since they need Maeda, they need Ryu, can they all come back later June, early July, get healthy, get the rotation healthy in time for the playoffs? If that's even necessary. Like, can they get that rotation going? And for right now, it seems like you see those games. Like that happened last night. It seems like there's a game where a starter goes 2 or 3 or 4 innings and they have to use the bullpen. The Dodgers, the last 2 years, were very reliant on their bullpen. They use their bullpen a lot. They do not have workhorse starters. They're not Cleveland. They're not Washington. Teams like that who probably use their starters the most, or even Houston, who can just go out and know you have 4 or 5, certainly 4, and really good starters who can give you live innings. They don't have that. The rotation right now, Walker Buehler, who may win the National League Rookie of the Year, he looks really good. Yet, at most, he's going to go 6, maybe 7. He's on a pitch restriction right now, being young, and had Tommy John surgery 3 years ago. And then, yes, Ross Stripling has been quite good for them since being in the rotation. Really helped them a lot. And then, I don't know, Alex Wood, who great year last year as their number 2. I don't know about Wood. I mean, I happened to see his first start of the year. Just looked spectacular, that start. Thought it was a sign of things to come. I don't know. The thing is, they need to get the rotation straight now. Their offense is really starting to get it going. And here's the thing with the Dodgers is, on May 17th, 3 weeks ago, they were 10 games below 500. They had a lot of problems. It was clear. I think recently they got themselves back up to 500. I know they lost last night, so they're a game below. But still, in 3 weeks, they were able to basically get back to 500, which is sort of like that 2013 Dodgers team. They had a lot of injuries and disappointments, and they got themselves deep into a hole 10 games below 500. They got hot, they got healthier, things started to happen. And with the offense, major parts is I think Jock Peterson has started to hit the ball really well. The power started to show. His average is as high as it's been in years. And Puig, I think a few weeks ago, went on the DL, I believe. Came back. At the time, coming back, average was 200. Now it's near 250. That's a great sign. And unfortunately for Cody Bellinger, way down, is on a major slump right now, is nowhere close to the player that he was last year, and he won the National League Rookie of the Year. Yet is only 22, has a lot of time to figure it out. Bellinger will get it going at some point this year. And Matt Kemp's the real surprise. So Matt Kemp, who lost 40 pounds, best shape he's been in a long time, is added a feet per minute or feet per second to his sprint speed this year, has gotten significantly faster, leading the National League in batting average, hitting in the 340s right now. And we saw what Kemp did last night. He's been their best hitter all year long. Many people did not think, 1, would be with the team during spring training. 2, would not be with the team at the beginning of the year. Won the job, is starting. I think should start the All-Star game. At the very least, he's definitely going to make the All-Star game. He deserves it. You know, All-Star voting started last week. I voted for Kemp. I personally think Kemp deserves to start in the All-Star game, which is very remarkable. Since we know is not the same player, say, from 2011, where it'll be a 40-40 type year. Those days are gone, but Kemp, playing the best baseball he probably has in 4 or 5 years. And unfortunately, sure. And so, moving on from the Dodgers, the Giants, they got Madison Bumgarner back. Great sign for them right there. Johnny Cueto, great when healthy. Unfortunately, he's been hurt a lot this year. Cueto could be back by the end of the month. I think the Giants are starting to get healthy. Now, it'll be interesting to see what type of team they can have. Like, how well they play down the stretch. Where will they be, say, by the All-Star break? What do they need to do? Are they buyers or sellers? Where's this team going? And I think how they play the next 6 weeks will really tell us that. And the team that has been leading the National League West for a fair amount the last few weeks, the Colorado Rockies, which I don't trust the rotation. If they get into the playoffs like last year, I felt like they'd have no chance to get past the divisional round. They don't have the pitching. Some pieces in their bullpen, really good. But a lot of their bullpens has really been disappointing. Yes, their offense is starting to get it going. Yes, they're starting to hit. But this Rockies team is not the type of team that you'd see winning the division. The National League West is a very weak division. For a while, we thought the D-backs would win the division easily. They look like by far the best team in the division about a month ago. They went through a major cold spell. The Dodgers, right now, if you had to pick a team to win the division, it would be the Dodgers. The way they played the last 3 weeks, just the talent they have, the upside they have the rest of the year. They're the most talented team in the division. I think they're the favorites right now. I don't trust the Rockies, the Giants. I don't know. And granted, give them credit, give Bruce Bochy credit for keeping this team together, keeping this team around 500 throughout the year, giving them at least an opportunity for when Bumgarner comes back, say when Cueto comes back. How does their lineup look? Give them credit there. So, in the West, you have basically 4 teams. Rockies, D-backs, Dodgers, and Giants, and it's hard to say who's going to win the division. Dodgers are the hottest team recently. The D-backs have played better. The Giants have won 5 out of their last 6, so they've played well in the last week or so. And then what about the Rockies? I don't know. This is hard to say. But if I had to pick one of those 4 teams, it would be the Dodgers. They're the team that I have the most confidence in. And it'll be very interesting to see, one, who's leading the division on July 1st. And not only that, how big is the lead, number 1. And number 2, who's leading the division at the All-Star break. So this division could go either way. Very interesting. So we talked about the National League. Now it's time to jump over into the American League. So the American League. The American League East. So the Orioles, look, this is the end of an era for them. Manny Machado is an AL MVP candidate right now. And you look at what the Orioles' record is, worst team in the major leagues. And Manny Machado, yeah, you have to look at his WAR. I'd say, I don't know for sure what it is right now. I'd guess let's say it's around 3 or so. Definitely very high up there in the league leaders. So when you look at that number, the Orioles could be significantly worse. So they will trade Manny Machado. That's going to happen. No question about that. The question is where? I don't know. A month ago, I might have heard the news of possibly maybe the Dodgers as a possibility. To be honest, I have no idea where Manny's going. The Orioles are going to be sellers. They're going to trade a lot of pieces of that. I think they're in a major rebuild. I don't think Buck Showalter will be back. Contract up. Very, very good manager. Especially for them. Helped turn that franchise around. For sure. Made it to the playoffs a good amount. The Orioles had a good run. They had a good run. But I think it's over now. I think they're done. And Rays, I don't know. They have an interesting strategy. They sometimes like to start relievers, say for platoon advantage or whatnot. That's what they do sometimes, and it's a very interesting strategy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But the Rays are hanging in there a little bit, but the real big 2 teams in the division, Red Sox and Yankees. And for the Red Sox, Mookie Betts had a minor, I think it was side injury. They think Betts will be back possibly as soon as tomorrow. Certainly by the beginning of next week. Might do a brief rehab stint, but they're going to get Betts back, who, in my opinion, I think is the favorite to win the American League MVP. No question about that. JD Martinez has 20 home runs this year. League leader and has leading the league in runs batted in with around 50. JD Martinez, definitely, you can say, is MVP candidate. JD Martinez has been great this year. Has been just what they needed for that offense, who last year, I think, missed the presence of David Ortiz. JD Martinez is starting to fill those shoes. Their offense is great. The Red Sox, best team in the major leagues right now, won yet another series, swept yet another series. They are definitely, the Red Sox. And then when you go on with the Yankees, right? The Yankees, they're great too, just like the Red Sox. Now they have some weakness. It's the starting rotation. It drops off. Severino is a Cy Young Award contender. Will probably be a Cy Young Award finalist this year. Might actually win the AL Cy Young. And then and then it drops off. Tanaka, yeah, CC's pretty good. Usually does what he needs to each start, but is no longer going to finish the game like you might have expected years ago. Might give you 6, maybe 7 good innings at the most. And Sonny Gray's had 2 really good starts recently. Has pitched 2 8-inning games recently. But for the most part, it's not been that good for them. They're going to need an extra starter. I think they will add a starter at the trade deadline. So between the Red Sox and Yankees, who's better? It's hard to say. Back in April, when I first went on the show, I said the Red Sox were better. And that was clear. Then the Yankees got really hot, and the Red Sox played about 500. Now they're both really hot, and they're both really, really good. They each have... They're each going to win, one's going to win 100, one's going to win 98. How they play against each other, say, during that stretch, what happens, I think whoever wins the season series wins the division. It's how they play against each other. And I think these games, whoever wins one of these games against each other will make a huge difference. So far, they're tied 3-3. We've had a lot of great battles between Red Sox and Yankees this year. And granted, they may very well play each other in the first round and the division series, since one of them is the season in today. So that would be the Red Sox. Would be the top team in the AL. Would be the highest seed, and then the Reds and the Yankees, and would play in that wild card game. And granted, hopefully they can win that. We would have a Red Sox Yankees playoff matchup, and that would be very epic. So those two teams in that division, it's going to be Red Sox and Yankees. We don't know who's going to win the division. We'll just have to wait until then. In the American League Central, on the other hand, the Indians are heavy favorites. And with the Indians, we keep waiting for the Indians to just take off and run away with this thing. They haven't yet. It seems like, the Tigers win a series against them. And since at times, the Indians are always right around, they've always been just a few games above 500 recently. Where the Tigers or Twins always below 500, usually a few games below it even. And it seems like that the Tigers and Twins are hanging around. The Twins are nowhere near as good as they were last year. They're down from last year. And then the Tigers, who we thought would be the worst team in the majors this year, they're not contenders. If they win 75 games, that'll be nice for them, considering the type of talent they were. That would be pretty remarkable, actually. But the Indians are going to run away. It's not if, it's when. It could happen any week now. And granted, the Indians, they're really on a hot streak, and they lost 3 games in a row to the Twins last week after winning the first game of a 4-game series. So teams are still hanging around the Indians, but they're going to get hot. Their offense has really picked it up. It's been great since May 1st. You look around their lineup, Jose Ramirez, no question the best third baseman, offensively wise, in the American League. That is not even a contest. Not even close. And then you go again with Francisco Lindor, might hit 300. Great defense at shortstop with 40 home runs. I mean, this Indians team, they're starting to hit. That is their strength. And then you go the rotation. Talk about this rotation in the playoffs. They have 4 guys, which is rare today, that can give you, that will throw 110 to 120 pitches. And will give you 7-8 innings. We'll even go for the complete game, which I think 3 out of 4 of those guys in the rotation have done. Kluber, best pitcher in the ALs, may win another Cy Young. Carrasco gives you a lot of innings. Same thing with Bauer. Same thing with Clevenger. They'll take you as deep as they possibly can. they can give you 7-8 innings. And granted, their bullpen, and part of the reason why they're doing that is their bullpen's a major weakness. Andrew Miller's been hurt a lot this year. And really who they rely on the most is Cody Allen. So if the Indians give you 7 good innings, the 8th inning starts to become a little bit of a question. The bullpen has hurt them a lot this year. The Indians will get bullpen help at the deadline. They will win the AL Central. When you look at those 2 division races, they might have the easiest path of any team, of any division in the league. Since you go around the East, still questionable. NL Central, questionable. NL West, very questionable. AL East, it's between 2 teams, but still very questionable. And then the AL West, the Mariners surprisingly have been a great surprise story this year. They are ahead of the Astros. So you have 2 really good teams in that division. The Indians are the biggest favorite in any division in baseball right now to win their division. And I have no reason to see why not. So you want to talk about other Twins. The Twins, they're nowhere near as talented as the Indians, even if they're just a few games better, close behind them. Neither are the Tigers. They're going to start to fall apart. The Royals, no. And the White Sox, I thought maybe they could kind of be contenders this year, maybe make a run at the wild card, maybe give the Indians trouble. No, they're one of the very worst teams in baseball. They've been very disappointing. They're going through struggles of what young teams do. There you go. It's going to be the Indians. No contest. It's not even close. And then the AL West. So the AL West, that's an interesting division right now. Since the AL West, the Mariners are in first place. How they've been doing it, James Paxton's been great. He's going to make the All-Star team this year. Had a 16 strikeout performance in early May. Threw a no-hitter, I think. Had another complete game. Paxton's been great for them. He's now their ace. He's their best pitcher. They have a very good bullpen. That helps them a lot. They might have the best closer in the American League in Edwin Diaz. And their lineup, unfortunately, I think is starting to get going. They got D. Gordon back. Mitch Haniger's having a very nice year right now. Has double-digit home run totals. They have a good offense. It's hard to say. I don't think they hang around. I think they can be a wild card team for sure. That is definitely a possibility. Granted, since it comes down to this, the wild card teams is either going to be Red Sox or Yankees. None of the AL Central teams are even close to a wild card team. That's not going to happen. In the American League West, right now, yeah, the Mariners, they very well could be a wild card team. I don't think they're going to win the division. Since number one, their starting pitching is not as talented as the Astros rotation. And number two, in fact, no team in baseball's rotation is as talented as the Astros. And number two, I don't think their lineup's as good as the Astros lineup. Yes, I mentioned Mitch Haniger's having a nice year. Yes, Nelson Cruz will hit you a lot of home runs. Yes, D. Gordon and Gene Segura have been very good. They're going to hit over 300. They have a very good lineup. But they don't have quite the pitching. James Paxton's the type of guy that can win you one game, and then, okay, you get into the playoffs. What do you do with the rest of your rotation? Like, how do you do it? Since Felix Hernandez is not the same guy that he was even 3 or 4 years ago. Is declining. He's figuring out how to pitch. Is not as a dominant pitcher as he before. And the Astros, they're going to win the division. They are that team. Verlander's ERA is below 150. Verlander's a Cy Young favorite right now. Verlander's been just spectacular. This might be the best year of his career, actually, for a matter of fact. Certainly second best. And their rotation's really good 1 through 5. Now, granted, there has been some bad starts. Morton had a rough start against Boston. And Keuchel had a rough start against the Mariners on Tuesday night. And they've lost some games recently. They're not running away from the division, but that's okay. They're a talented team. They're very talented. Yes, they've had some injuries to their lineup here and there. to key contributors, but they will win the division. They will very likely play the Indians. It will be interesting to see whether they can catch the Red Sox or Yankees. I don't know. They're clearly the two best teams in the American League, if not in all of baseball. It's very interesting. The Astros will win the division. So, as of right now, let's just go to rapid fire division picks. East, I said the Nationals. National League Central, I'm going to say it's going to be the Cubs. West, Dodgers. And the American League East, undecided yet. Can't decide. Don't know. Both of those teams are evenly matched. Central, Indians, easiest pick by far. In the West, I'm going to say the Astros, but I think the Mariners will be a wildcard team. And don't forget the Angels. Well, yes, they don't have their starting rotation, not very good. Yes, Ohtani has been their best starter and one of their best hitters, as a matter of fact. But Ohtani's had that blister problem, left his start early last night. I'm a little concerned there. I do think the rotation is pretty good, but they just don't go enough innings. I think their bullpen's fairly good. This Angels team, they're great for a while. They've gone through some cold stretches. They've been a streaky team this year. They have not been able to build on that great start. They've fallen back a little bit. I do think they can be a playoff team. I mean, the Mariners, they've been the best team in the MLB the last 3 weeks. So I do think the Angels can possibly catch the Mariners. The A's, I think, are making really, really good progress. They're not a playoff team yet. They're not ready yet. And then, obviously, the Rangers, they're going to be sellers. Watch out for them at the trade deadline. They're going to trade a lot of their key pieces. 2 contenders. They're the team to watch for of just who they're trading or not. Well, thank you for listening to this edition of the MLB Podcast. I enjoyed it today. And I'll try to come on there sometime again in the month of June. Hopefully I can come on multiple more times in the month of June. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.